George H.W. Bush has a new book out. It's called Destiny and Power, The American Odyssey of George Herbert Walker Bush. It's really about his time in office, written by someone else that obviously got all these stories from him. And in there, he goes after kind of Dick Cheney and definitely Don Rumsfeld. Now, it's an interesting moment for Dick Cheney because at the same time we found out that they're putting his bust up in the Senate to commemorate what a great leader Dick Cheney was. Now, I'd get on the Republicans for that, but it turns out, no, all vice presidents, because they're technically president of the Senate, get a statue made and their bust put on in some hallway in the Senate. So, but at this moment when we should be celebrating Dick Cheney, these terrible things come out about him. So apparently George H.W. Bush called him, quote, an iron ass, which I don't know how to take that, right? There's an interpretation of that which is positive. Like, my ass is rock hard. It's possible that you could call my ass an iron ass. Anyway, I digress. So, but he did have this to say about Cheney. He said he became very hardline and very different from the Dick Cheney I knew and worked with. And he went on to explain that he seems like he got, it was an interesting charge, that he got influenced too much by other members of his family that were even more conservative than he was, including his wife and his daughter, Lynne Cheney and Liz Cheney. I'm not sure that anyone could really influence Darth Vader other than the Sith Lord. But I'm with Dick Cheney on that particular charge. I think he was plenty conservative as it was, as he's going to talk about in a second. But he also said that he became part of the people who wanted to, quote, fight about everything, use force to get our way in the Middle East. And he seemed to imply that he led his son, George W. Bush, in the wrong direction. Okay, now about Rumsfeld, he was much tougher. He said, I have never been that close to him anyway. There's a lack of humility, a lack of seeing what the other guy thinks. He's more kick-ass and take names, take numbers. I think he paid a price for that. Rumsfeld was an arrogant fellow. Now, unfortunately, no, he didn't pay a price for that. He's still respected in Washington, and sometimes Code Pink will chant war criminal at Rumsfeld, and they'll get arrested. And they'll be like, oh, everybody in Washington will be like, oh, these Code Pink people, how dare you? Meanwhile, over 150,000 at a bare minimum civilians killed in Iraq in the war, senseless war that they started. 4,500 U.S. service members killed in a war they needlessly started. And right now, Dick Cheney is having a statue of him put up in the Senate. Rumsfeld has suffered no consequences whatsoever. They're just as arrogant. They're just as iron-assy as they always have been. In fact, Cheney goes on TV and has a good laugh over it.
We smile about it. We laugh about it. Same with my daughter, with Liz. But my family was not conspiring to somehow turn me into a tougher, more hard-nosed individual. I got there all by myself.
Cheney is reading Meacham's book, in which the 41st president calls the vice president iron ass. Cheney sees the comment as more compliment than criticism.
I took it as a mark of pride.
He went on to say, I think a lot of people believed then and still believe to this day that I was aggressive in defending and carrying out what I thought were the right policies. Okay, is that true? Do a lot of people think that Dick Cheney did the right thing and he had to take those actions after 9/11 and attack the wrong country? No, it's not true that people think that. In fact, when he left office in 2009, you want to know what Dick Cheney's approval rating was? 13%. Now, this is the guy that the Republicans now honor and celebrate and is all over TV as if he has any legitimacy whatsoever. The worst vice president we have ever had led us down a wrong, dark path that included torture and disastrous foreign policy mistakes. That's why the jury's in on Dick Cheney. The American people can't stand him. I'm not sure I've ever seen a politician at 13%. Maybe John Edwards when he was cheating on his wife who had cancer. But even then, I'm not sure he hit 13%. But this guy goes around as if he's been vindicated. You're not vindicated, man. We all can't stand you, and we know what a buffoon and a loser you are. And by the way, on top of all of your failures, did you ever get the guy who hit us on 9/11? You had about 8 years to do it. No, you never got bin Laden. Loser through and through.